Chapter 19. For a moment, Abel was stiff with terror. Then he scrambled to his feet, but before he could get away, he was in the cat's mouth. He could feel her sharp teeth holding him firmly by the skin of his back. Now he was being trotted off somewhere in a very businesslike way, and there was no question about the nature of the business. His thoughts remained remarkably clear. Was this the culmination of all his plans, all his yearning, all his work, all his waiting for a long, long year? Would he not see Amanda again? His family? Not be at home again? Not be? Could life be so cruel? The cat dropped him on the ground. He darted off like an arrow. The cat pounced, held him under a paw, and in another moment let go. Abel did nothing. He couldn't tell whether it was fear that held him, or sudden loss of hope, or whether he was playing dead out of a long-forgotten instinct. It amounted to the same thing. He was motionless. The cat was motionless. They waited. Then swipe, she struck him, tossing him into the air with a cuff of her paw. At that, Abel was off and running, the cat after him. Again she snagged him in her teeth, and again she let him go. Abel crouched, only his eyes moving. He was bleeding, yet he felt strangely detached now, curious about what the cat or he himself would do next. The cat watched. She blinked. Was she bored? Abel felt she was being much too casual about his imminent end, and though it were only one of the many she had contrived, he sat in a tree a short way off and scampered wildly toward it. The cat allowed him a head start, perhaps to add interest to the chase. Abel fled up the tree in sudden streaks, going this way, that, under and over branches, around the trunk. The cat stayed close, but slipped once, while Abel kept going. He made his wild way, to the very top, to the slenderest branch that would support his weight. The cat couldn't follow that far. They rested. They could see each other clearly in the moon's mellow light. Looking down from the safety of his position, Abel realized that the cat had to do what she did. She was being a cat. It was up to him to be the mouse. And he was playing his part very well. A little smugness crept into his attitude. He seemed to be saying, "It's your move." Whether in response to this, or merely because she was tired of waiting, the cat leaped. Abel gripped his twig. It bent like a bow when she struck it, swung back, swayed, and shook in his grasp, and he could hear the cat drop, hitting branches as she fell, yowling and screaming in pain and amazement. He heard the thud as she struck the ground, and her crazy caterwauling as she shot off in utter confusion. The unruffled moon continued to shine. Abel stayed in the tree and eventually slept in the light of morning, taking his bearings. He was overjoyed to see Mount Eunice in the northwest. The fire observatory was on the side visible to him, and at last he knew where he was. He had to travel northward, with a bias to the east, and he would be in Mossville sooner or later with luck. In less than a day, he would be seeing her again. He hustled down the tree and started homeward, half walking, half running. Chapter 20. By late afternoon, he was on rocky ground cleft with ravines. It must have been one of these he was flushed down a year ago in the hurricane, because he had arrived before long at the cliff with the cave that he and Amanda had taken shelter that day. He pressed on. He was walking in the woods where he had picnicked with his wife. There were signs of last year's great storm. Broken branches lay on the ground, and uprooted trees with slabs of earth still attached to their bases. In the shade of the woods it was still quite green in spite of the drought. Abel's heart pounded with his exertions and excitement, and with dreadful anxiety. Would Amanda be there at home? Would she be happy to see him? At moments he was afraid he might even be unwelcome. It grew dark, and he was glad of it. He had every reason to be in rags, but he didn't want to be seen that way. He didn't want to be seen anyway, not by anyone but Amanda. Later there would be time to see mother, father, family, and all the others. He reached the edge of town at night. He was in Grover Park. The soft gas lamps were lighted. It was a hot night, and the park was full of townsfolk outdoors after dinner to keep cool, strolling on the graveled walks, chatting on the benches, laughing, watching the children romp and frisk about. How wonderful, after the year alone in the woods, to see this model of civilized society, the town where he was born. He recognized many faces. He was back where he belonged, but he stayed in the shadows to avoid being seen. Then suddenly, whom should he see? She, herself, Amanda, sitting on a stone bench in a perfectly everyday way. How could he keep from rushing out and holding her dearness in his arms? He managed to restrain himself. There were others on the bench and on the walk. He had waited a year, he could wait a bit longer. Their reunion should be theirs alone. He hurried quietly home, avoiding any encounter. Home! He grasped the graceful railing and bounded up the steps. He still had the keys in his ragged pants. He opened the door. It was all exactly as he had left it, as he had remembered so often during his exile. It was nothing like his hollow log. Amanda's radiance was there. How good to see her things about. And his books, his favorite chair. He went into the kitchen, looked for a pot on the stove, tasted the soup. In the bedroom, he looked around with anxious joy at the familiar objects he washed with scented soap. He donned his best silk shirt, his purple cravats, his brown velvet jacket with the braided lapels. These elegant clothes felt uncomfortable. Now smiling, he put Amanda's scarf on the taboret in the entrance hall where she could see it when she entered. Then went to the parlor and lay down on the plush sofa, his paws behind his head, his heart full of bold expectations. It seemed a long time before Amanda came home. At last he heard the door open, and then a gasp and a cry. Abel! Oh, dear Abel! It's you! It's really, really you! Amanda came rushing in and flung herself into Abel's arms. They covered each other with kisses. When I was able to speak, Abel said, I brought you back your scarf.